And so that's why I developed the Seek First method is once I was able to see what the root core issue was, then my purpose of bringing true health and wellness to people in a lasting way was the only thing I could focus on.
Thank you.
Well, Seek First Podcast, welcome back. Coach Daniel, I'm sitting here with a mayoral candidate, Mr. John Hedges. I had the pleasure of meeting John this last weekend and had invited him to do a podcast. There's been some mayoral turnover fairly recently in Andover, like just with Julie and then
Sherry,
Sherry.
She's done after 4 years.
Yep, yeah. And so now it's kind of an open race, and my wife turned me on to you, and we got to talk a little bit. And this is just, I have some natural questions, John. Why don't you tell yourself, just tell me a little bit about, who you are, why you, why you're throwing your hat into the ring, and,
I'd love to.
Okay.
So, a little bit about me, though. My name is John Hedges. I'm married to Pam.
Okay.
And we moved here from Richmond, Indiana back in 1990. I was here in 98. The family moved in 1999.
Okay.
And the funny part about that is we actually moved in January.
Oh, okay.
Like the first week. And we're coming across the St. Croix. And our van had a thermometer in it, and the temperature gauge kept going -8, -9. She goes, I think something's wrong with the, with the thermometer.
Turn back now.
And you hear the roof cracking and everything. And I said to her, I go, no, that's what we're moving into. And so she got over that a little bit ago.
Yeah. Okay.
But,
how long have you been here?
So since 1999. Yeah.
Okay.
So 25 years now.
Wow.
And we live in Andover. We live in the same house over on 143rd Street Northwest.
Yeah, we're not too far apart.
Not at all. And then we have two sons, Alex, and he's married to Katie. And he when we moved here, he actually went to Blaine High School because he played tennis and he had the opportunity to go to Andover, but he chose not to.
Okay.
And then our son Chase, he is 34, and then he has a girlfriend named Reagan and stuff.
Okay.
And we have two wonderful grandchildren, and one of our grandchild just started kindergarten today at 5. And so both of them are at Andover Elementary School.
That's got to be wild.
8 and 5, and I'll tell you what, it's...
so as a grandpa,
it's the greatest.
Is it the greatest?
Oh, yeah.
It seems like it would be the greatest.
It is. And the best bumper sticker that I've ever seen says, if I would have known grandkids were so much fun, I would have had them first. So and it's so true. And I don't rush anybody into that.
Yes.
But it exceeded every expectation.
I dream about it.
Yeah.
I dream. I've enjoyed being a father more than anything else in the world. Yeah. And so to take all the things you've learned and failed from that process and be able to give that as a gift, but yet at the same time, be once removed so that you're not doing the work for the mom and dad that should be doing the work, but adding that layer of wisdom, adding that layer of fun, adding that, it just...
Oh, yeah, you sugar them up and
I don't want to do
home.
anything else.
I know, and you do, you sugar them up and send them home, and it's a blast.
That's
and,
amazing.
Movie night, popcorn, we go to eat, we watch a movie, they want popcorn, they want ice cream. Anyway, everybody out there that has grandkids, you know what I'm talking about.
For sure.
Yeah.
So what did you do before? Because you're retired now.
Not yet. I'm going to
yet.
retire at the end of this year. So
Okay.
I'm director of business development for a company called Meat Art Engine out of St. Louis. And
Okay.
I actually, the reason why we moved to Minnesota 25 years ago was I took a job with one of my customers. I worked for the company that invented the weed eater. I was director of sales and marketing. And I took a leap of faith. I prayed a lot about it. I sat in church one day and I looked at the cross and I thought, that's my life. It is at a crossroads right now in my life. I was asked to be the interview for a CEO position of the Chamber of Commerce in our hometown of Richmond, and it was a great position, a lot of businesses there. And they told me I was too valuable to the community. I had a 50-person class Sunday school, adult Sunday school. I had been on the radio. I had a 10-year stint on a jazz program and on a rock station. It was awesome. And then I was director of HOFCO. And all these things just kind of compiled, and I said, you know what? I think I'm going to take him up on it. So I did. I moved here. I took a massive leap of faith, and I have not turned back or regretted it since. So today, you know, I bring in millions of dollars of business. I work internationally, locally. You know, we represent 21 states for Kohler Engine and several other products like MTV and things like that. So retirement was knocking on the door, and you know, and the whole thing leading up to the mayor. I'll just fast forward to that. So 4 years ago, I was asked by a group here in town to consider that.
Okay.
You know, and I really did take it serious. And I talked to Mayor Bukola. At that time, she was a city council person, and she decided that she was not going to tell anybody if she was running for mayor. And so then, out of nowhere, you know, she says, "I'm not running for council, but I'm not saying if I'm running for mayor." Well, I knew. So I backed out, and it was probably better anyway. Our company was going through a sale transition, and so anyway. Now fast forward 4 years later, the same group asked me again, and I looked at it, and I'm just really frustrated about a couple things we'll talk about tonight, and you know, and so I said yeah, and I started again, prayerfully considered this. I mean, I have a lot of trusted advisors, a lot of friends that I really leaned on, Daniel, and I mean, everything pointed to do it and take that chance, and it's been fun. It's also been a little enlightening because you find out, you know, kind of about who real people are and things like that. Mm-hmm. And formerly, you know, I was a drug and alcohol counselor, and I thought I knew people, but it's a different
People
thing.
are complicated.
They are.
They are multiple things at multiple
I shouldn't say
times.
they are. We are.
We are.
Yeah,
yes,
we are.
Correct.
Yeah, because
yes.
I'm as complicated
right.
as
The
the
royal
next guy.
they.
Yeah.
Us included.
Yeah.
For sure. I just got out of a session and we were kind of discussing the inevitable dark side of human, you know, people, and I was telling, I'm just going to throw myself under the bus here, you know, and it's hilarious. It's a hilarious story, right? Okay. And I think, you know, I'm a big existentialist. I love big ideas. I love philosophy. I love education, and so I tend to overthink things, if anything. But one of the things I love is especially within Christianity, psychology, is like not ignoring the dark forces of our psyche, the voices in our heads, those versions of ourselves, because one of the things I teach on morality is just because you ignore those things doesn't make you a good person. A good person understands their capacity for that. They look at it, they look at that potential, and they choose. It's a conscious choice on that side. And one of the things that just makes me laugh, still to this day, it's not funny, people, okay, but it is funny. I was running in Bunker 2 years ago, maybe, and I mean, I've had much darker thoughts than this, but I'm running down by the community center, by that big outhouse there. I'm going down the hill, and there's that little body of water down there. It's just a little pond, right? It was spring, and there was a photographer down there, and he was right on the edge, right? He was like right on the edge taking some pictures. And I was running, and I'm like, the first thought was, man, I could just go push him in right now, right? And then,
oh my goodness.
Oh yeah. And then I watched myself in the theater of my extremely active imagination run up, and I envisioned him going for a swim at my behest, right? Yeah. And so then, as I'm running, then I separate from my mind and I look at myself and go, what is wrong with you? You know, and then I just started laughing in the middle of the park at my own propensity for...
Well, the good news is you did it, but you didn't do it.
Of course, of course.
That's
I mean, that's the beautiful thing about thinking and imagination. We can act these things out in our minds so we don't have to act them out in real life. But, you know, not to go down in that big road, but, you know, we were having that conversation because... You know, again, full circle, people are complicated and people are run on all kinds of motivational forces. And that's, you know, we see that in politics all the time. It's like, are you really doing this for me? Yeah. You know, there's a lot of skepticism. So
I love that. And actually, I could see myself really kind of similar. I mean, I looked at my life, you know, do I want to retire and enjoy life and not have any more hassles? I mean, I have been a leader since I was 27 years old and have had numerous experiences. I mean, good, bad, everything, to your point.
Yep.
And and it came up with, I can see myself doing this. And another point you just made, it is for the people. I don't need the glory. I was a DJ, and it didn't change me. I had people from Indianapolis, Cincinnati, Dayton, all these people listening to my show, but it never changed me. I am who I am. I get to go to bed at night and know that I did the best I could.
So what do you think the people of Andover are calling for that you are able to provide and serve in a way that is being neglected? Or
that's a great question.
Yep.
So that's a great question because you have two groups of people that I'm finding now. And the one group was like me 3-4 months ago, sitting on my porch, having a martini with my wife, and she's having a glass of wine. And I go, what? Andover's a really great place. And I mean, everything's perfect. And then you have the other group that is just still really upset about this whole community center second edition. And I'm upset about it because I believe in transparency. I believe, that's what I can bring here besides leadership. I think that I'd like to see more people get involved because if you don't get involved, you really don't know if you're mad or you're really happy.
Right.
I mean, you hear these things, and what I've learned by knocking on some doors and the people that open, I mean, that's another discussion. But but you just you listen to what they say, and I'll bet you 40% of them bring it up. Still.
Okay.
I mean, it's a huge thing.
Well,
yeah.
That's definitely something I would like to dive into.
Yes, good. We can do that.
Because as an Andover resident, I'm probably the norm, which is I'm not a part of the Y because I own my own fitness center and I'm co-responsible for the health and wellness in this community, right? I don't look at the Y as a competitor or something negative. I just don't really have any affiliation with it. The only time I'm over there, I have a couple clients that play hockey and things like that. I'll wander over there on Andover Family Fun Fest and things like that. So I understand it. But my life just goes on, right? I mean, so many people don't know they have to get involved and don't know how to even make that time. And because one of the curses of Andover is, Andover suburban living for at least people my age with kids in that zone, it's insane, man. Whether it's sports schedules, just keeping up with all the things, there's so many things that keep people. And in a smaller community, one thinks, the general vibe is, okay, we're all here for we've all come to Andover for a general experience. So maybe you take that for granted. You take some of your differences for granted, but then the next thing you know, you're taking a $30 million bite out of a burger you didn't even know was on the table. And now you're seeing that reflected. It's compounded by economic circumstances that I think everyone's feeling, in the tax repercussions. But what happened there? What happened that has made people so, upset 4 years later? And, explain some of the nuance so I can know whether or not I should be upset about it or not. Pros and cons.
And that's a nice part. People get a choice to, to put it past them or to still be aggravated. And so I went back. I've had people tell me what happened, and then I've actually gone back into the notes. And for everybody out there, if you really want to know what's going on, read the notes, and they put the minutes and all that right
Where
there.
would they find that?
So on the Andover government page, the city webpage, and then you'll go to, it says meetings, minutes, and things like that. And I think it's really
they'll
good
have
thing
to
do.
cycle back a few years and find those discussions.
Yes.
But you'll be able to.
You can go back way back.
Okay.
So this took place in 2019, and it's kind of interesting because my opponent was one of the people that voted to not let the voice of the people be heard.
Okay.
There were the mayor at that time was Julie Trude, and then there was Val Holdus and Jamie Barthel, and then Sherry Bucalo was on there, and then I don't know if Knight was on there. There was somebody else on there. I apologize for not knowing.
That's
that.
Okay.
But the score was 3-2 when the vote was done, and I watched the mayor forum that the League of Women Voters put on, and it was back in 2020 when Sherry ran against Julie. And and both of them talked about okay, well, we let people know what was going on, did this, but one of the things I caught was if you put in the Andover City newsletter in December about meetings and hearings and things like that, probably nobody's going to read it in December. So
it's a bad time.
So I think that that's just a small example of the communication that I felt like was going on.
Do you think that, I mean, it's speculative, we probably won't know, but from a feeling standpoint, do you feel like that was intentional, maybe just lazy, maybe somewhat neglectful, and it just happened because it happened?
Yeah, I don't want to be the rumor spreader, but I mean, there's a special interest group. Now I need everybody in this that's watching this to know, this is not about hockey for me.
Sure.
Everybody says, well, you're making it about hockey. No, not at all. This has to do with, trusting your leaders, and that's the whole problem. And, I'll tell you what, though, Daniel, if they would have done the vote, they would have passed.
Sure.
I'm convinced it would have passed. Because we all want, we want the community
to thrive around entities that support the community.
We do.
Yep.
But one of my problems was, and as was with many in town, we just needed to be
transparent,
allowed to vote.
Yep.
So the two, when you add the two centers together, it's probably around 30, because they were still paying, and I believe they had about a $2 million balance on the first go around with the Y.
Okay.
And so then they added another 18. I think when it all settled in, they might have budgeted for 15, 18, somewhere in there. But again, that's being paid through, the first part's going to be 31 when it gets paid off.
It's a long time.
It is. And and then the second part is going to be paid off in, I want to say 40, 41, somewhere in there.
And this is all reflective in taxes.
Yes, it is.
And what taxes in particular? Do you know?
I mean.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know if I have my little glasses, but maybe you do. And so you can see this. There's I also wanted to point out that the org chart here in Andover says the citizens are at the top. And so that's the other thing that's really frustrating. So these first two lines right here, those would have, so the first one would be the first community center, and it tells you actually, how much is left on the balance. And so this is what the beauty of the website is. You can go on and you can, get your own information. If you don't believe me or some of the things I'm saying, this is another great place to get information.
Okay.
But I guess, looking at it now, I have really great ideas for taking it forward, because listen, it's done. Let's not keep living on it. If you're out there and you're trying to figure out who to vote for, and you weren't happy about this, if you vote for me, Jamie still stays on the council, so he and I will get to work together. But it also sends a strong message to any city council, whether it's ours or whether it's one in the future or whatever. Don't do that. Yeah. That is not what the people want. So,
and now, just to be fully transparent, Jamie was one of the votes that pushed past the vote.
He did.
Okay.
He did, and he's a good guy.
Sure.
I mean, most people.
And I want to invite Jamie on.
I hope he takes you up on it,
because he's also running for mayor.
He is.
Okay.
He is.
And you two, primarily just the two of you right now?
That is the two.
It's
set in stone. It's the two of us, and but
so
I think it'd be great if he could come on here.
Yeah, I do too. And so, what would you do to push forward in a way that, okay, this is done. We're not giving the money back. We're not deconstructing this. So,
The place needs to pay for itself, first of all.
Okay.
One of my questions is, why does the city own this? Okay, that would be my first. If the city has to continue to put money into it, and again, I need to dig in more into the budget. So before we hold me to that, but I do know that it just it needs to make its own money. It has to survive on its own, and if it can't, there's only two options. One, raise prices. I mean, again, I'm a business guy. I'm not a government guy. I'm a business guy. Mm-hmm. You raise prices, or you find,
creative solutions
absolutely,
to raise funds.
Or there's another option, and that is to sell it to a private person. Now, the issues with selling it to somebody private, for some of the people that use the community centers, prices would go up.
Yep.
And I sit there and think, well, if prices would go up with somebody from the outside, why shouldn't they go up with somebody from the inside? Again, y'all have to realize, sorry, there's some of my Indiana Southern.
Yeah, I heard it.
I went to college at Southern Mississippi too, so sorry.
It's all right. But it adds a charm.
Thank you. But y'all have to realize that, this is our center. This is the Andover Center. It's a beautiful place. People that come in that I know
is beautiful.
And people that come in from other towns to play in hockey tournaments or basketball, or they come in for the open houses or whatever they have, home shows. They think it's one of the nicest around.
It's an impressive place.
It is, but it can't be an anchor to the city.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I mean, not to air my own, because I really don't care. I'm a small business owner that runs in some of the same lanes. One of my personal grievances going back to COVID and the hell all of that was watching my fellow health and wellness professionals shut down their businesses left and right because they're private entities and they don't just get the funding support from the community. My wife and I were fortunately survived it through a lot of grace, support from the community, which is a reflection of the service and love we provide to our members, right? But nonetheless, we were grateful, we were humble, we were lucky, and we were strategic. All of those things applied. But I watched club after club, and people watching this, we can rattle them off. I'm not going to rattle them off, but just here in Andover, within a 5-mile radius, I watched 4 or 5, 6 businesses close that operate in this space. And I know for a fact that if that wasn't anchored to public funding, we wouldn't have that community anymore, trying to survive that. And so there is an unfair advantage. I do recognize the benefits that it provides. And so I have no idea if it's better to be publicly owned or privately owned.
Yeah, and
I have no idea, but it should be a conversation.
Yeah, I think so. And again, it's about dollars and cents. I mean, and it's frustrating because I've poked the bear in some cases because some people have told me, quit talking about the budget, quit talking about this. But, one of the first things I noticed when I was doing my due diligence to figure out, do I want to do this, was the budget shows a $9 million loss in the very beginning. Now, you own your own business and you've owned other businesses. And you and I know that, if somebody brought that to you, Daniel, and showed you that, you would think either they're crazy and have a lot of nerve or they're fired. So I look at this and so I talked to the city administrator, who I actually like a lot. Told me, he goes, John, private sector budgets are different than government budgets. And, I wish I would have thought about this then, but does that mean that a dollar is different in the government than it is in the private sector? And it's not. So, so in that case, they must pad it. And again, I'm just assuming right now, but they must pad it with some fluff somewhere where they know that, hey, we can draw this out, because his answer was they make it up. Mm-hmm. So we all know that, there's things that we have in our budgets that, well, maybe they're kind of, teetering on, maybe or not.
Yep.
But in this case, we're talking about a city. And, if I'm mayor, if I'm lucky enough and fortunate enough to be mayor, I want to make sure that we start off with at least a balanced budget. Yeah. And we can get into the roads here in a little bit too, because that's another expenditure that we're all going to see.
Yeah. So I know, obviously property taxes have gone up. Where else are they pulling this funding from? From me personally, do you know? Is it mostly property taxes?
Oh yeah. I mean, the majority of the money that I can see in here. I mean, we get some grants from the state. And I want to look into more of that.
Yeah, right.
Because and I think I talked to you and Sarah about this the other day. I want to make businesses thrive. I want to help them thrive. And I think that an entrepreneur, as you are, may not get the help that you need financially to get a business going. And one of the biggest it's a weird fact, but I've heard this so many times. Andover doesn't really attract the major restaurants because we don't have any access to highways here. But yet, we have a Walmart. They have trucks. They get in. I've seen Subway trucks come in. I know Target has trucks. So that might be somewhat of an excuse. It may be the truth. I don't know.
Sure.
But one of the things I do know is that people in Andover believe in people in Andover. Yeah. You look at Margie's, you look at White Rabbit, you look at yourself, you look at Beef O'Brady's. I could go on. You're right next door to you, the taco place. And I just think that, we look at these places, Willie McCoy's even, and everybody believed in something in Andover. Now, if you want some fine dining, you have to go to Maple Grove. Yeah. I mean, or Minneapolis or somewhere. And not a lot of people want to go to Minneapolis still,
So that's an interesting thing. I mean, Andover is a very unique community in the sense that, it is a little off the beaten path, but it has the vibe of not being off the beaten path.
Yeah, it kind of does. Yeah.
But it still has that really small town supportive, vibe to it.
Yeah, I love
It's
that.
very intimate.
Yeah.
But Andover is a very difficult place to live. It's an expensive suburb. It's a very well-to-do suburb, right? So, I mean, we want the things to support it and support that rich culture, but at the same time, we also don't want to fall into the trap of, like, thinking we have endless pockets.
Yeah, we don't.
Because a lot of people come here because they're just looking for that next level up of single family homes, safe communities, things like that. We're very, very fortunate to have Anoka County Sheriff here. I think we all feel amazing there.
Yeah.
So there's this real important draw that we want people to take, advantage of if they can. But we also don't want to make this for me personally, we don't want to make this, no offense, Eden Prairie or Edina, right? We don't necessarily want to become this elitist,
right?
We want to be thriving, right? We want to be thriving, but we also don't want to make it impossible for people to come and be a part of the Andover community.
We can do it without those things too. I think. I think. I hate to single anybody out because it's not fair to the others, but I look at Margie's. They opened during COVID.
Yeah.
And they're local.
Everyone loves Margie's.
They do, and but then we have other places that we love. I spent 15, 20 minutes with Brad, the owner of Beef O'Brady's the other night. I mean,
he's
I was
done
just
a phenomenal job.
I was blown away with what he has done and the way he trains his kids and all this stuff. But no, I really believe that we can have that what we want here. But it may have to come from our own people. And again, I love the entrepreneurial spirit. My wife and I own a company called JP Sauce House. We're an online, not to get a plug.
Yeah, plug it, dude.
But no, we sell barbecue sauces and rubs. And, we sell to everybody but Andover. We're online only. And so I just feel like, I have this entrepreneurial spirit. Wouldn't it be nice if there was a grant for money to say, hey, we're going to help you? And I actually think that there are some startup helps here. But when I talked to the current mayor about this, I think her answer was something like, yeah, we don't do a lot of that. So that would be one of the things that I would bring here because I'm a business guy. Let's look for opportunities for our people.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
So what about these roads? I mean, I've smelt the chemicals. I've been rerouted many, many, many times.
Yeah.
Currently, I can't go down Crosstown.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I mean, I live in Minnesota, man. I mean, like, whatever.
The whole country's going through road. Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
I mean, whatever, dude. I mean, I'm not cynical about it by any means, but there does seem to be a ton of work that's been done. I don't know if it was last summer or the summer before. Our neighborhoods all got regraded, and they're great. They look good now. Yeah. So, like, what's going on with that, and why is that such a big deal?
So, again, I'm enough to be dangerous here. Okay. So, again, I think we have 220 miles that Andover is responsible for. A lot of people think that Bunker Road is Andover Road, but actually it's county. Oh. Okay. So when you see people working on that, it's not our people, it's not our money, but off of Bunker, you might have noticed around the Andover Family Dentist and things like that, on that side street, they tore it all up and then they rebuilt the street. So that is an Andover street because it's a side road and off of Bunker. There's 220 miles of roads. 88 of them have been identified by our city of Andover. By Public Works that they have to be fixed. They absolutely have to be fixed. And I don't know where blame lies. I don't know where. I think, I don't want to start anything, but do we go back and we look at that expenditure we had, for a bond on the community center? I hope not. I'll just put it that way.
So not to find blame, but to at least learn from wherever the mistake was.
Oh, and I told Mayor Bucala this. I said, Sherry, I said, I know this much out of this much that I need to know.
Yeah,
and so, as I continue to, learn more, then these answers will come easier. But back to the roads. So they do mill and overlay. They do what they did in our neighborhoods. They came by and they buffed it out, threw the sand down and let that go for a while. And people complain because it's got some tar in it and it gets on their car. But yet, it's a brilliant way to preserve a road that was recently done.
Sure.
And so
I assume that's what it was.
Yeah, I have no problems at all with that. And again, what my hope is that our roads are going to go up, our taxes are going to go up about 13%. Somewhere around that tune in 25 for the roads. Okay. So here's John Hedges, mayor, telling the council and the city administrators, don't even think about, asking for another penny for roads if we don't take that 13% off going forward once the roads are done. And the idea is that it won't go off. It'll continue to be on your taxes for a long time. And again, then don't come to us for another penny. Because to me, we have to manage our money better now with the roads.
Yeah.
We have to manage our money better with city government. I mean, it's no secret. Andover is a great city. We have a great city administration. We really do. And we have really a good council. I want to make it better. I just want to make it better.
So what we're seeing is the same thing we see at multiple levels of government, where here's the intended purpose behind the tax, but really we have no intention of removing this, because once we pass it and we get that flow of income, we're going to make up, and this is the problem, this is the conversation between big government and small government, is, okay, small government people, like for me personally, I have no problem having a conversation about a specific expenditure, and I know I'm going to lose some and I'm going to win some in a community like Andover. I accept that, and on a local level, I don't have a problem with it at all if I'm outvoted. But at the end of the day, I also don't want to create a pattern of government spending where where does it stop?
Exactly.
And it's not like you're not going to find a reason to use it. We can all find something. Look at your own budgets. I'm going to preach here for a second.
Preach, baby,
it's
preach.
Like, right? It's like, look at your budget. If you have 13% laying around, what are the odds that, a good person will put it away and save it? But most of us are going to go out and find a use for it, and you don't even have to look very hard.
You don't.
Right? You just look at the first car dealership and you get the BMW and you drive it home and you pay $800 a month for your car.
Right.
And it is what it is. And that's irresponsible on every level.
Yeah.
And we shouldn't have to have a debate about that.
No.
So, that seems extremely reasonable to me.
Yeah.
Pay for it, but when it's done, it's off the books. And if you want to spend something on something else, let's have that conversation. That should be a separate conversation.
Yeah, and I really don't have a problem with it, because, again, if it's going to be put into a fund for roads going forward, and we don't have this makeup of 88 miles that we have to do all at once, I probably don't have a problem with that.
Or does it have to be 13% if we did the roads properly, made it up, funded it, and now we have roads that shouldn't necessarily have to be? I don't know.
And I don't either. There's people that do know that answer. At City Hall, like Jason. I think Jason, who handles the roads, is awesome, and he's very transparent. And again, it's all about transparency. And so going forward, let's just say that they stick with the 13% forever and ever. To my point again, don't ask for another penny on roads. So manage that money really well. Whether you bank it, whether you draw interest, let's find ways to be able to make that money grow. Yeah. So, and the other thing that you kind of reminded me is, like, I know the difference. It sounds like you do too, between a need and a want. And I think in government, that's not really, at least from what I can tell, that's not really a common thing. So like with me, it's kind of like, do we need it or do we want it? Because right now, until we get some of these things, and everything looking hunky-dory, that's an awesome word, hunky-dory, then I think that we have to figure out how to say no to a want. A need is different.
I think that's good advice across the board.
It should
learn how to say no. It's okay. We're pretty abundant. We're pretty blessed. Andover's a phenomenal community. I don't even know how I ended up here. It's just, but it is a beautiful place, and we've put down our roots here and supported our, raised our family and supported our community, and we give and give and give and give and give. And, being a small business owner is very tough, and I'm probably on the side of the equation right now in Andover where it's like, man, 13% in 2025 is going to be noticeable.
It's going
to be noticeable.
It's going to be noticeable.
And I'm glad that we're getting good roads out of it, but, going back to the lack of transparency on the community project, it's like, at the very least, we want to live in a community where we all trust each other, and have a conversation where, hey, like you said, I think you said that it would have passed regardless.
I think it would have passed.
It probably would have.
I do.
And you know what?
Yeah.
So be it then.
Yeah.
But then at least there's less resentment.
Well, and you lose trust.
Yes, that's what I mean. There's less resentment on it, right?
It's like our kids, let's say.
Yep.
You know, if we do something really boneheaded, our kids won't trust us, you know, anymore. Now that eventually they come back if you doing something
Yep.
right. But I think it's no different. You know, really, city council and city hall, I mean, they work for us.
Yeah,
right? Again, the org chart that you can find on this Andover site, you know, the city hall, has citizens first. We can't forget that.
Yeah, and it does feel like, at least in that process, that was superseded. It feels that way.
Because and I'm not even so sure, I can't speak for City Hall, but I don't even know if they thought it was a good idea. But at that time, that council was. And I mean, they had hearings on this thing, you know, where they call them public hearings, where you can come in and you can state your mind and piece. And one lady came in and she was really upset, and she got taken out of the building. Now, I'm sorry, but a lady complaining about something that makes a lot of sense, for me,
not cause for removal,
will never get thrown out of a building.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there's a way to do it. There's tact, and there is a line at some point that we all know. But
if you
point,
feel strong,
yes.
I mean, you know, I get it. I was in the counseling business. I get it. People are emotional about things. Was there a primary motivational reason why that superseding vote was pushed through? Was it general? Was it hockey? Was it, you know, potential revenue? Yeah. I have an answer, and it is hopefully my opponent comes on and sits in this chair, and you can ask him that question.
Okay.
I don't know the answer. I
Fair
wasn't
enough.
there. You know, and I think that it would be.
I'd love to understand that.
Yeah, and I think it would be unfair for me to assume why. I think I know why, but I'm not going to say it.
Okay.
I want him to
enough.
say it. And I think that he needs to be responsible for that.
Yeah.
And again, I'll throw it out there. If you don't like the fact that somebody, you know, did this to our community and to our people and their money, hard-earned money, don't vote for him.
Yeah.
Vote for me, and he'll still get to be on council. But he'll get a clear message that says, "I made a mistake."
Yep. Well,
he's gotten away with it.
And I mean,
a good guy. Again, he's a great guy.
And in all fairness, I mean, one of my favorite people I just wrote a letter of recommendation for is a senior on the hockey team, you know, and she's amazing. And, you know, we've had the boys hockey program in here in our gym for 3-4 straight years. And I know every one of those young boys, I see them on every time they're home from their colleges or from juniors or whatever. We love hockey. You know, it's not about hockey. It's just more about understanding, like you said. I think more trust has to be put in the community of Andover that we can have an adult conversation about what's right, and you know, and then understand that you're going to win some and you're going to lose some if you're a part of a community.
You have to. We'll say it again. You have to have faith in your city leaders. You have to think that, because you know, I want to go back to the roads for just one more second. And then if you don't mind, I'd like you to talk to me about, or I'll talk to you about the sheriff's contract that we have.
Okay.
Because I think it's really worth talking about. But with the roads, like I would have to vote for that 13%, knowing that that's something that's going to inflict pain on people. But yet, this is infrastructure that we absolutely have to support, because it's not going to get better if you don't fix it. So the difference between the roads and the community center are night and day.
Correct.
So okay.
Yeah. I totally understand that.
Okay.
So then dive right into it.
Okay.
Yeah, let's talk about the sheriff's situation.
Interesting. First of all, I again, doing my due diligence, I got to speak with, you know, Chief Jones of the fire department. I got to speak with Sheriff Wise, and learned that Andover is the biggest city in Minnesota that doesn't have their own police department.
Yeah.
Which did I tell you that on Sunday, or you?
No, but it makes obvious. Yeah. It does make sense.
Yeah, and it actually, you know, I never even had thought about it like that.
We take the county office for granted.
We do.
Sure.
And years ago, I always questioned, why do we not have our own police department? You know, I just couldn't understand it. And then as I started digging into it, I'm like, oh my God, you know, whoever did that is brilliant.
Right.
Because first of all, it's not cheap, you know, and it's kind of has a little bit of a smorgasbord feel. So, you know, if we want 8 cars, we want 7 cars, we want this kind of time, then they charge us for what we want. It's interesting, but for them to have their headquarters here, their office here, and now with the new 911 dispatch that's going in here,
Right.
bad guys don't want to come here.
No.
And when they do come here, they don't like what happens to them, So
I passed one hiding on the middle boulevard of Hanson at 4:15 this morning.
Yeah, it's
funny
funny
I'm like, those shadows,
Yeah.
you guys, when you hide in those shadows.
Yeah, I love that you said that because you and I talked about this, but I swim 5 miles a week still. Old man swimming 5 miles a week, and sometimes I'll see him over there on Bunker, across from Da Vinci.
Yep.
And I'll just kind of wave, and most people that have seen my car, it has a Police Lives Matter sticker over on this side, and then it has a Matt Ruge's badge, the guy that Burnsville police officer that was murdered down there, and then it also has an Indiana University plate. So if you see me with my honk at me, wave.
Yep.
But I love the arrangement. We do own our own fire department. While we're talking about public safety, and with Dennis Jones, he believes that they can provide more services. But again, I want to hear him. I want to hear what he's thinking, because if he can provide EMS, you think about it, the police and the fire are always beating the ambulances.
Right.
In our county, and I could be wrong a little off of these, not bad. Let's say that we have 11 ambulances in our system, and again, it's close to that, okay. and maybe only 5 or 6 of them are running because you can't, just like everything else, you can't find the people. So we really put more burden on our fire department and our sheriff's department and the deputies and stuff. They get there, they generally it's a medical. They do a lot of medicals. I know this because my son's a police officer. So they do a lot of medicals and a lot of domestics.
Yeah.
And so if they can provide an extra level of service, let's see what that costs.
Sure.
But our fire department is they rock. They rock.
I would love to hear the counter argument. I mean, I don't know anybody who doesn't fully appreciate in Andover the fire department, the police presence. It's such a blessing.
It is. Yeah. They do have their struggles with fire though, and I mean, there's struggles with everything. Like with the sheriff's department, Minneapolis raised their rates down there for the policemen to attract more policemen. I think at one time they were 500 short. So they try to pay more money to get more police officers, and that affects a town like Andover because now you're sitting
pulls
there going,
from it.
It could, but the thing I would challenge, even the sheriff on is, why haven't they gone already?
Right.
Right. There's a reason why people don't go and want to be a police officer in Minneapolis, and I think we have a good idea why. Ever since the George Floyd situation, it really got ugly down there.
Yeah.
So then you now switch it over to fire. I think we budget for 55. I think we have 42, but a lot of those guys are paid for when they go on call.
Okay.
And these are young people, probably your age, and they have a family, a small family, and things, and they have a job other than being a firefighter. Yeah. So it's really hard on them, to be able to go to work when their wife or what, if it's a woman firefighter, their husband.
It's hard to find a balance
of
life.
You are spending a lot of time, at the fire department. We have a life too. So I think it'll be really interesting to find out exactly how we do going forward with fire.
So when you
full time.
Sorry, when you first brought this up, you mentioned the kind of lease contract. What does that look like? So we're in what, with the county?
County.
Okay, and what is? Do you know what that lease looks like? Like, what is it? They
like
agree
how much or something,
or like what does it look like?
Yeah, no, so they have, again, they assign so many cars to our city, but what the awesome part of them being this close is if
they're in it anyway.
They're here, and so if something breaks out, there's a lot of people that can come and help us out.
So we can be very efficient and strategic regarding the amount of cars we actually need from Anoka County for this area, under the assumption that we already have the hub here, we already have kind of a extra presumed layer of at least perceived support.
Right. And it's not free, because like right now they're going through the city council, is talking about the school liaison, which is great because we need it, especially after the unfortunate situation in Georgia yesterday.
It's a simple solution.
It is, and so that's like, I want to say that was like $117,000.
And this is coming from a homeschooling father.
Yeah, right.
We'd support that all day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
And so you have, because you have benefits, you have overtime, you have this, you have that. It's no different. I mean, again, government is a business. I constantly say government is a business, and the police department has to be a business too. They have to be accountable for their, for their budgets.
Just make them handsome, put them in a uniform, you'll get all the women votes.
There you go. Yeah, they have the old Andover sheriff, deputy, and firefighter calendar. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, you and I will be in there. It'll be nobody will buy one if I'm in there.
So you're business oriented, feeling called, right?
I do feel called.
The main elements that you'd like to get to the bottom of is at least going back to understand full transparency on the community situation, the community center situation, but not just that. We're not there to blame.
No.
We're also there to understand it and then creatively problem solve the lack of revenue that is currently, to get it to support itself ideally.
Let's at least break even.
Let's at least break even.
Right.
One of those things could be potentially talking to private equity, private ownership.
Yeah,
it's at least on the table.
It should be on the table.
Yeah.
If we can't do this, again, if I'm fortunate enough to be elected, and I take my business sense in there, and I have other people that I want to see win, that also have business sense. If we can't help them, we have to put
not only that, but even just opening up the entrepreneurial element to that means you're going to have to come and present what you're going to do.
Right.
Once you present what you're going to do, we just had a brainstorming session.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that we can't implement those things from a publicly owned entity. Right. And so even just having that conversation is going to spur the opportunity or spur the neurons to hopefully come up with some other revenue generating things. And that's the biggest thing for me is like, okay, like you said, it's done. I'm not worried about this anymore. Yeah. But let's make it the best it can be in all the components. Not just a great hockey arena, but like what other things can we do to?
Well, and I think that there's a lot. I see that they're putting a simulator up there on
golf?
The second floor. Well, it's golf, but then a multiple game simulator.
Oh,
so
that's super
that's
cool. That's a great idea.
Well, it could be a great.
It could be an idea.
But here's why I say it could be a great idea.
Right? Are we including it with the membership?
Well,
or are we adding?
How are we paying for it?
That's
how
right.
are we paying for it? And again, I've got a couple of emails into the guy that runs that place. I want a private tour, my wife and I, to go through there. I want to hear the history of it. I want to know his viewpoint about why we did this, why we did that, and I want to know what we're doing to get to break even. Because again, if you run a business, you cannot continually draw money from somewhere else, And again, I don't have the facts in front of me, today, but I would be able to look that up. And if anybody wanted to know, get back to you. Or you can go on there yourself and find it.
Yeah, and I have a hard time, with the logic of, well, business and government budgets are different.
Yeah.
They may be, and I'm open to understanding why that is more than I understand now. But, those types of presumptions tend to create patterns of fiscal irresponsibility.
Yeah, and we have to
and then we umbrella that over some general statement like budgets aren't the same.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, there's probably some elements of truth to that.
Yeah.
But a budget shouldn't put you in the red, right? It should keep you in the black, and regardless of whatever.
And if you know that you're going to be able to make it up through the year, why put the fluff in?
Yeah.
And again, I may not even know what I'm talking about. I think I do.
Well, and
I'm in business.
There is such a thing as running a surplus and giving back to the community of Andover as well.
Yeah.
That seems to be outside the vocabulary of governmental conversation.
Let's get it. Let's get it where it's paying for it, and we don't have any more tax increases.
Sure,
And
that's a great starting point.
When we get to that point, that's like finally we stop the bleeding.
Yeah.
Because when I moved here, I want to say my taxes were like $2,400 every 6 months.
Yeah.
And now they're probably going to hit $5,000.
Yeah.
For
Yeah, it's
excuse me, for the year.
noticeable.
It's at 24 every year. I mean, and then
Yep.
it's going to hit 5 for the year. And I guarantee you, everyone out there, same thing.
They
do the
see
same
it.
thing.
Yep.
And it's not like we're all made of money. We are not the Edina of the North, like I
Yep.
constantly hear.
Yep.
And I don't even know if we want to be. To your point.
No,
earlier,
just
you know,
I think because our sports programs are so amazing,
they are amazing.
you know, and
They are.
you know, and because you guys start them young in our youth programs, and we, set them
Feeder
up for
program's
success
great.
on that. But
Keep up the plugs,
but
buddy. That's right.
no, I mean, we really do have some amazing things going on, and
Yeah.
people want to be in Andover, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So, so then in addition to that, we have the road scenario. We have the what's going to happen with the 13%.
Yeah.
How do we structure that in a way where it's responsible and not forever ongoing and increasing? And then the other component was also public works, right?
There's another thing we should probably talk about real quick, and that's like, and you and I and Sarah talked about it the other day. Whether or not somebody does THC or doesn't do THC, the city did not understand, kind of like how to handle THC drinks, and so when you're down at top 10 and they say, why, and they know I'm running for mayor, and they're like, well, why did they take away my THC drinks?
Yep.
So I talked to Council Member Nelson, when he and I were together not long ago, and he said, we just didn't know what to do, and
Sure.
and so since
that's
then,
an honest answer.
Yep,
at
and they've
least.
corrected that issue. Again, I'm about business. I'm about not sending somebody to Coon Rapids and not sending somebody to Anoka and not sending somebody to Maple Grove. I'm about saying we have what you want here. It's legal.
Yes.
So I mean, if something's legal,
It's
then
legal. It's regulated.
yeah.
Adults can make their decision.
Exactly.
Regardless of personal preference or whatever, it's irrelevant. It makes sense to me. Logically across the board, why?
Yeah.
Why would we send that revenue? Why would we
Yeah, I can do it, or I can choose to do it or not do it.
That's right.
I mean, and that's where we need to be. And again, I'm supporting our local business. They lost $1,000 a month down there by not being able to sell that. And I just, for the life of me, sit there and go, why would we not?
Yeah,
why would we not understand what we're doing before we take it away from them? Let's find out if we're maybe let's get better educated,
Yes.
and then take it away if it makes sense. But
Right.
We did it backwards, I think.
Yeah, I mean, if you wanted an analogy which would resonate with something less controversial, it's like that'd be like selling whiskey in Coon Rapids, but not Andover.
Yeah.
Sorry, just rum.
Yeah.
Just rum and vodka, but you got to go to Blaine to get your whiskey
Right.
to some degree. And what I mean by that is nobody has an issue with alcohol. THC is a
new thing.
it's a
It's
developing
legal.
conversation that's been a part of the cultural ether forever.
No.
Like from the beginning of mankind, to some degree.
Yeah. No, you're right.
And
you're
so it's a part of the conversation that we should be able to talk about openly. And again, if we're gonna treat adults like adults, they're not going to not use it if it's not available in Andover.
They'll find it.
They'll find it.
So let's not chase our people away. Let's keep our people here. Let's give the people what they
But
want
you
within
can-
reason.
But you can hear the argument that we don't want to support it.
Yeah, but that's
You can
that's the
hear
choice.
it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
but-
everything, Daniel, right now is 50%.
Right,
You
right.
look even at our own country. You have
Yes.
half the people that
So
hate
polarized.
this person, half the people that hate
Yeah.
this. It's going to be really difficult for somebody to ever get us back in the middle.
Yeah.
But I think that even as simple as something here at Andover, let's listen to the people. Let's find out what the people want, our bosses.
Yeah.
Okay, and then figure out what's right and wrong. And you know what? Have a good justification if you say no
Yes.
to what the people want.
Yep.
Prove to the people, you know what? Here's another option. Here's another way of looking at it.
Nuanced, integrated conversations are so critical.
Yeah.
Because then it's not just simply, we teach our kids this all the time.
Yeah.
We'll take a topic like social safety nets, right? We'll take like a welfare program,
Yeah.
right? The general narrative is it's only one of two things, right? It's either, creating a dependent underclass that's always going to need to be fed, or it's protecting the underclass and giving them a leg up. There's no conversation in between about, well, maybe there's a certain subset of the underclass that needs to be taken care of, and they just are simply not going to be able to function in society. And then there's another subset of that underclass that needs to be encouraged to learn how to fish versus being handed a fish. And then how do you incentivize that to the betterment of the community? Would we be willing to fund that more substantially if there was trades educations involved or community, community requirements for volunteer work or better support or what are those, so I mean, again, I'm not to get in the weeds, but there can be more integrated, reasonable, nuanced conversations that can take those polarizing viewpoints of a broad description of what something is and can start looking at all the potential pros and cons of what these decisions ripple.
It's about education.
And then that's
really what it boils down to.
Yeah, because then you can say, okay, you may be against THC, we don't want to encourage it, but here's the revenue that it's going to support, and what are the good things that we can do with that to compromise to the subset of the population that may, and that's the educational piece, right? It's like, here's... So I don't know.
There's
what I mean?
a bigger issue that's coming though, and I mean, nobody's talking about it. I think about these things because, one of the things that I was blessed with, I think when I was just, I can see way out here. Okay. And most of the people that I deal with, they see the here and now. I really love looking out here and you know what? I might be wrong, but at least, I've got us looking at the right direction. So with that said, the dispensaries that are going to start popping up in 2025, while we're on the subject of THC, is city council going to be the people that control how many come in? I don't think so. According to the sheriff, he thinks it's the state because it's a state, it's a state, I don't want to say program, but it's a state law, that they went ahead and legalized marijuana in this. So will we have dispensaries here, and where will they be? Will they have the nerve and the best way of doing it? Will they do that and say, okay, within X amount of places from a school, a church, whatever it is.
I mean, we have a tobacco shop in this mall.
Which was grandfathered in probably, wasn't it?
I would imagine. I know they can't have THC over there. It's a CBD-based smoke shop. But nonetheless, we're 200 meters from the middle school, and there's got to be a line.
Well, there's and there are things in government is grandfathered in, and I think so. If they were there before all this took place, then that's probably how they got through with it. But the main point is, keep that in mind, everybody. What is going to be? Will we have 3? Will we have 5? Will we have 1? Will we have none? So again, I need to do some more research on that, and I need to talk to our representative Scott and some of the other ones.
How do you better? How do you better? We have the Andover today. Right. Are there ways of communicating that can better involve people in the conversation that we're not looking at?
Yeah, absolutely. And
you're
hired. You're hired.
Like a monthly podcast.
You're going to be our source of information in Andover.
Shit.
But here's the problem though. We can't pay you. Okay?
Sure, right.
But,
shocker. Well, that fits right in with what I do.
I don't know. I think we should get you a national sponsorship with this.
Yeah, get me a Celsius sponsorship, and I will volunteer to be part of the coordinated communication of the Andover government. City council, Jamie Barthel, right? Come on the podcast, right? Pull some strings.
Nice, I like
small budgetary aspect.
I like it.
Maybe,
but you're so funny, but you're so true because we do have. This is 2024. If we're relying on a newsletter to get all the information out to people, it's not going to happen.
No.
So we have to have digital places to go to.
Yes.
We have to have podcasts like you do. We have to have I thought about Let's Talk Andover podcast.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean
and that's kind of what I had in mind for this because I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like, I really don't know what it is. It's not mine. I'm trying to facilitate what it needs to be.
Yeah, and
right?
this is an opportunity for us
Yes.
to be able to come on and let people know who we are. Hopefully it helps you as well because you deserve that.
I want Andover to be the best, amazing place it can be.
Me too.
Whether that's a transformation story that other people can resonate with, and that ends up encouraging people to come see what worked for them in this place, or whether it's an important political scenario that clearly got fumbled 4 years ago and still has this bubbling underbelly of resentment, and that needs to be addressed so that we can properly heal and hopefully get on the same page, whatever that looks like. I really, for me, it's more of like, my wife put me onto you.
Thank you, sir.
God spoke to me and said, "Hey, let's see what this guy is all about."
Yeah,
I have a small little studio and a platform, and like to hear myself talk
awesome.
sometimes.
I wish people could see what we're in. I mean,
it's kind of cool, isn't it?
It's cozy. It's well constructed. I'll say that.
It's nice.
And having the old experience in radio and in an old radio booth, man. This is I'm loving
I know.
it. I'm loving
And when
it.
we expanded, so we're in Amy's candy shop of all places, right? And the irony of a gym expanding into a candy shop is not lost on me. Felt like we were killing two birds with one stone there. Although I love Amy. She was doing great. She didn't move out of here because she closed down. She was thriving. She's a wonderful person. But we expanded, and we had this big dilemma about this big little, like, we just wanted space. And the problem with this space is in the middle of this space is a little outcropping of a bathroom and just an unused area. And we thought about tearing it down so we could just have an open, open rectangle, but it ended up being this amazing little place where all kinds of fun stuff happens.
Well, this is first of all, this is a great opportunity for both of us to get to know each other even more. And
whoever watches,
you're listening. And I'm gonna also push this. I'm gonna have a lot of people push it. If I could there is a guy that I hope you can also get on. His name is Scott Shue. He's running for city council.
Okay.
And he and I think a lot alike. He was a military guy.
I'd love to talk to him.
And he would love to do it. And I think this is a real opportunity for you as well, to be able to, let the people see, who they're going to vote for.
Regardless of whether I like it or not, I mean, at one point I used to just assume it. Now I do it because it's who I am. We're leaders in this community too, right? And we're leaders. We're, at the very least, we're leaders in the health and wellness discussion. And we take that very seriously. That's what we've been called to do. And whether that's in our youth programs on a preventative measure, or whether that's getting the adults up to the capacity that they know they're capable of being, mind, body, and spirit, there's no more important thing for us. So, whatever results in our benefit as a reflection of the service that we're trying to provide in a leadership role the same way you are, hey, that's how we want to build our life, and that's how we want to survive in whatever manner we want to survive, is not because we're seeking money or things like that, but that it comes to us as a reflection of our service and love for others.
I love that.
Yep.
And I make you this promise too. If I'm fortunate enough to be elected, if you want me to come on, I would love to come on and let you know what's going on, because again, transparency is going to be one of the most important things. I also want to get people involved. I never have been involved in anything in Andover other than coaching. I did coach 2 years, and just so everybody knows, set an all-time defensive scoring record in 10th grade basketball. They only gave up 19.8 points a game.
Nice.
In 10th grade. So
all right.
Went undefeated that year. Ran the table. But keep it in mind.
Yeah, I will. And John, I mean, thanks for coming on. It was a great conversation. It's been a pleasure getting to know you. I can't wait for other people to watch this and get involved in the conversation. That's really what this is about, is get involved in the conversation. As much as we're all enthralled with, the national conversation, this is our home, and this is where it matters.
It is.
And so,
thanks for the forum.
My pleasure. And great chat.
Thank you
guys.
too.
Seek First Podcast, you guys. Hope you enjoyed the conversation. Anyone who can get me a Celsius sponsorship, like
work on that.
hook me up. John, maybe connect me with Scott, either via Facebook or throw me on a text message or whatever.
I sure will.
Jamie, if you hear this, I'll probably reach out to you as well. I'd love to get your perspective on things and learn about you as well. So
That'd be awesome.
you guys have a blessed night, and
Thank you.
Yep, take care.
Thank you, everyone.